This is from Mickey's Young Reading Library. Huey, Dewey, and Louie meet the witch. One day, Huey, Dewey, and Louie went off to find an adventure in a nearby forest. We're down to our last piece of bread, our last little carrot, and one bare soup bone, Dewey told his brothers. This doesn't seem like much of an adventure, Huey complained. It could be worse, Louie sighed. We could be lost. Do you know where we are? Huey asked him. Louie looked around the dark woods. He had no idea where they were. At least it isn't raining, Dewey said. But just then they heard thunder. That's great, Louie moaned. We're hungry, it's getting dark, and now there's a storm on the way. The wind began to blow wildly through the trees. The boys couldn't decide what to do first. Find a place to sleep or find something to eat. Let's rest while we decide what to do, Huey said. Then he looked up at the sound of a tiny chirp. There he saw a skinny little bird that began to sing a lovely song. When the song was over, the hungry bird looked at the bread in Huey's hand. You poor thing, you must be starving, Huey said. Then he gave the bird the bread. What have you done? Cried Dewey and Louie. That was our last piece of bread. Do unto others as you would have do unto you, said Huey. If I were a hungry bird alone in the forest, I would want someone to give me some bread, he added. Thank you, young sir. I will not forget your kindness, the bird chirped. You can talk? Huey asked. Dewey and Louie were surprised to ask anything at all. Yes, the bird answered. You see, I am under a witch's spell. The witch who lives in a cottage at the end of this path. Whatever you do, don't go there, or she'll put a spell on you. With this warning, the bird flew away. I'm not afraid of an old witch, Huey said. After all, we're looking for an adventure, aren't we? Let's go see this witch for ourselves, added Louie. What do you think, Dewey? He asked. But Dewey wasn't listening. He was looking at a horse standing nearby. I'm going to catch that horse and take a ride, Dewey called to his brothers. When Dewey saw how thin and tired the horse looked, he changed his mind. Poor thing, he whispered. I've got something for you. Then he reached into his pocket and gave the horse his very last carrot. Before Huey and Louie could stop him, That's just great, complained Louie. No bread, no carrot, all we have left is one bare soup bone. Well, I'm sorry, but if I were a hungry horse, I'd want someone to feed me. I will not forget your kindness, the horse told Dewey. Why, you must be under a witch's spell too, just like the bird we met before, Huey exclaimed. The horse nodded. Run from the witch, he warned. Then he galloped away. Just then a dog came running out of the forest. Well, hello there, said Louie. Without a second thought, Louie gave the dog the soup bone. Huey and Dewey smiled. I will not forget your kindness, the dog told Louie. Then it too ran off, warning, run away from the rich while you still can. The three boys looked at each other. Now they had nothing to eat and no place to sleep. All of a sudden, they sniffed a delicious smell. It's coming from over there, pointed Huey. He was pointing to the witch's cottage. The growling of their stomachs made them forget the animals' warnings. They followed the delicious smell right up to the cottage. The cottage looked warm and cozy, and there was a wonderful smell of soup. The boys knocked on the wooden door. What do you want? A voice asked. Food and a place to sleep, replied Louie. The old witch opened the door and looked at the boys. All right, she said. I'll give you soup and a bed if you'll each give me 1 day's work. It's a deal, the boys agreed as they went in. At once the boys sat at the table and started to eat. The soup tasted even better than it smelled. And when their happy stomachs were full, the witch gave them a blanket and a place by the fire. Soon the three adventurers were fast asleep. The next morning, the witch told the boys what to do. You fill this basket with apples from the top of those 3 giant apple trees, she told Huey. Then she handed him a huge apple basket. You dig a hole big enough to swim in, she told Louie. Then she handed him a small spoon. And you use this cup to fill the swimming hole with the water from the lake, she told Dewey. We can't do these jobs, cried the boys. The witch laughed, a wicked laugh. I forgot to tell you one thing. If you don't finish your jobs by dark, I'll turn you all into sheep. I need some wool to make some nice warm pairs of socks. Then she went inside to take a nap. "What are we going to do?" Louie asked his brothers. "Ba, ba, ba," Huey sang. "We might as well get used to it," he said. "There's no way we can do what she asked." Suddenly an apple fell into the huge apple basket. Huey looked up. There he saw the bird, to which he had given the piece of bread. "I didn't forget you helped me," the bird chirped to Huey. "Now I'll help you." The bird began to pick the apples from the giant apple trees until Huey's basket was full. And you helped us," said the horse and the dog. "Now we'll help you too." Then the dog began to dig a hole deep enough for the witch to swim in. Next to the horse, Dewey on its back, and galloped back and forth from the lake carrying cups full of water. Before dark, every job was done. "You have been very kind," the boys told their animal friends. "Is there some other way we can be able to help you?" the boys asked. "Take the witch's wand before she wakes up. Next, run to the edge of the forest and break the wand in two. That will end her wicked spells and take away her powers. Then we'll meet you there as soon as we can." Huey, Dewey, and Louie tiptoed into the cottage where the witch was fast asleep. They slipped the magic wand out of her pocket and ran as fast as they could to the edge of the forest. When the witch woke up and went outside, she couldn't believe her eyes. All her jobs had been done. "Those horrible boys! I'll turn them into sheep anyways," she decided. She reached into her pocket for a magic wand. "It's gone!" she cried. "I'll get those boys for this!" she shouted. The witch began to run through the woods. There she came upon the little bird. "Lead me to those 3 terrible boys," the witch cried out. "I won't," the tiny bird replied. "They were kind to me, and you were not." And with that, off flew the bird. The witch ran along the path in the forest, hoping to catch sight of the boys. Just then she spotted the dog. "Help me find those boys," the wicked witch shouted. "I won't," barked the dog. "They were kind to me, and you were not." Then he ran in circles and round the witch, making her quite dizzy before he ran off into the woods. The witch crashed angrily through the woods. Then she came to the horse. She jumped on it and shouted, "Carry me to those boys." "I won't," neighed the horse neighed. "Let me guess," said the witch. "They were kind to you and I was not." "That's right," nodded the horse, and he would not budge. "Never mind," she cried. "I'll find them myself. You can't get good enchanted animals these days." She ran back to her house and pulled out her broomstick. Then she flew through the forest looking for Huey, Dewey, and Louie and her magic wand. The witch got to the edge of the forest just in time to see Louie break her wand in two. As the wand snapped, the broomstick dropped to the ground. The unhappy witch fell to the ground with it, and all of her magical spells were broken at last. In that very minute that the witch lost her magic, the bird, the dog, and the horse turned back into 3 men. The shortest one explained to Huey, Dewey, and Louie, "We were adventurers too. The witch tricked us the same way she tricked you, but we had no one to help us at all," ordered the tallest one. After thanking Huey, Dewey, and Louie once again for their kindness, the 3 young men went off to continue their adventure. They told the boys they would be sure to watch out for witches from now on. The boys waved a cheery goodbye to them. Just then the witch spoke. "That's all fine and good for you adventurers," she scolded. "But now that you've broken my magic wand, how will I get things done?" "Do you mean that you can't make that delicious magic soup anymore?" Huey asked. "Oh, that soup isn't magic," explained the witch. "My grandmother taught me how to make it." That gave Dewey an idea. He whispered the plan to his brothers. "If we were a witch without a wand alone in the forest," Huey began, "you'd want someone to help you out." Dewey and Louie finished. So the boys hammered and sawed, painted and cleaned until the witch's cottage looked all new. When they were done, the witch's cottage was turned into a cozy little restaurant. All through the forest, the boys put up signs that said, "Grand opening! Good Witch Restaurant! Just follow your nose! Try our magical soup!" Once people tasted the delicious soup, they came from far and wide to eat the Good Witch's Restaurant. And the witch was the happiest person of all. She had learned something very important. She could make friends like magic, but just by being as nice to others as she wanted them to be to her. And the good witch told Huey, Dewey, and Louie, "Whenever you go tired or hungry on your adventures, you will always find free soup and a place to rest at the Good Witch's Restaurant."